Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Succeed with Omid. Today I'm going to be trying out a little bit of a different format with this video. I'm going to say a little bit of something about why I hate floor crunches so much and why you should never do them. Two, I'm going to talk about the actual exercise I do instead and how I basically give it to every single client in the progression. And then if you want to stick around afterwards, I'm actually going to get into a little bit of the science on why this is so effective and how you can avoid almost all chronic back pain, neck pain, shoulder problems, hip problems, everything at the end of the video. So, really quick, I'm just going to get right into the Swiss ball crunch. If you've ever had back pain, you know that it's usually if you're going backwards into a position. And the reason why there's a back pain there is very simple. If you don't use it, you lose it, right? If the abs don't actually learn how to stabilize you when you're going backwards, there's going to be a problem. And that's what the floor crunch really prevents us from being able to do, is practice going backwards. If I stay in neutral and I crunch up, sure, I'll really go after what's called the rectus abdominis, that six-pack muscle. But then I'm just going right back to neutral and right back up again. And this is what a lot of people tend to think is needed to do to keep time under tension on that muscle. It's not. In fact, it's just setting people up for further back pain in the future. We really don't do, in almost any programs I've seen, enough extension work with the abs engaged. Sure, we can do all the prone cobras and everything we want, but it's not going to replace this exercise. Now, I'm going to, for now, do the beginner version, which means my hands are going to be cradling my head. And what I find for a lot of people is that when they're going backwards, their abs are too tight. It's almost like they're freaking out already because they're going to anticipate the back pain. So, I don't know if you can see my hips, they're really high on the ball. I'm going to lower them very, very, very low. And it's very simple. Physics is a thing, right? The lower my hips are, the less gravity is pulling on me, and I get to relax more. What I'm going to do is, as I inhale, I'm going to allow my chest to come up and my head to come back. And if I can touch the ball, great. Then I'm going to roll my spine up, just like a scroll or a yoga mat. I'm going to tuck my chin in my nose first, exhaling and coming through here. Now, if you know anything about reflexive sort of stabilizations in the body, if I need to move my cervical and part of my thoracic, the rest of my spine is going to reflexively stabilize. The abs are a resistor of motion first. So, you'd be surprised, even though all of the motion is up here, I'm still going to get quite a bit of work down here. And if I want to make this harder, all I have to do is lift my hips up. Now there's more gravity pulling on me through here. This has to stabilize and hold me more, and I have to get more stretch. Curling through the spine all the way up, stopping just before my hip flexors start to take over and come up through here. Okay? So that's the Swiss ball crunch. All right, now let's get a little inside baseball through here. So here's Frank. Frank is about 5'8", just like me. And he's got these three curves, right? We've got the cervical, we've got the thoracic, and we've got the lumbar. And I've got my plumb line straightened through Frank's ear, through his neck, through his lumbar, right into his pubic bone. What ends up happening is a lot of people forget this. We only have one curve that kind of goes backwards here. There is a little bit of something down here that goes backwards in our tailbone, but it's really not as active as most people tend to think. If there's a problem here, this video ain't going to help you. You really got to go to a physical therapist or somebody that knows manual release to get inside of there and fix your tailbone, and it's usually not that comfortable. But there's two curves that are going that way, right? They tend to squeeze this direction. This curve is the only one that goes this way, and it squeezes this direction. So if I've got two that go that way, why do most people do a floor crunch, which only takes you from flat to this? I've got two curves that can take me this way, right? I actually have only about 30 degrees of flexion, and anywhere from about 45 to almost 60 degrees of extension. And that's where that Swiss ball crunch really comes in handy. It'll actually train the abdominals that are right about here doing this to get longer as I have to go back. And it'll also help really train my neck on how to actually get into extension without me hurting. Also, we've got 8 of these guys. We got 12 of these guys, and we got 5 of these guys. What ends up happening is this segmental relationship, I'm not actually counting any of these, by the way. When something up here moves, stuff down here has to stabilize. All of these things need to work in a kind of team-like movement to stabilize and keep everything supportive. And you also have to remember that all of this stuff in here is feeding internal organs. If we get too tight through any of these things or not able to go backwards, we're not going to be able to send signals to our heart, our lungs, our kidneys, our colon, our liver, all of this stuff. We need to be able to move through all of this stuff at any given time. Otherwise, our body's going to tense up, turn into a brick, and we're going to be constipated. We're going to have leaky gut. We're going to have heart palpitation problems. We're going to have a lot of different stuff. So these exercises are more than just, getting a six-pack or anything like that, in my opinion. We can still get a six-pack and be very functional, be very safe, be very healthy all at the same time. One of the reasons I really like the Swiss ball crunch versus the floor crunch is because of this list that I'm about to show you. The floor crunch isolates out the rectus abdominis, which means that we're really going to get an isometric squeeze on the actual six-pack. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people like it. They tend to feel a lot of the results there, and it really gets them a good six-pack. But here's the problem. In my experience, back pain doesn't come right away. In fact, it usually takes about 10 to 15 years to really fully start manifesting after we've already caused the problem with something like this. A floor crunch is going to isolate out that one muscle, train it to get really, really, really big, and start pulling against everything that's trying to basically keep it in check. And it's also going to train it in a very bad, range. Again, we've got this much extension here, and the floor crunch does not hit that extension. However, the Swiss crunch, I just had to put etc. because there's all of this stuff stabilizing through here. You can even add the obliques to that movement if you put the feet together when you're doing the crunch, and then all of a sudden the ball's really starting to buck you side to side. And you've got to stabilize, you've got to breathe, you've got to get all sorts of functional strength and extension and everything like that, and getting more stretch into the abs, believe it or not, actually allows them to crunch and contract even more. So it's not only a more functional exercise from a health perspective, but you'll actually get better dang results with a six-pack and all that kind of stuff faster if you actually stick to it for a while, because you're going to be training a lot more of that structural muscle that supports that rectus abdominis underneath as well. Just a really quick last bit of information on this video, guys. I don't actually like to work out for any longer than I need to. So when I'm thinking about all of these lists of muscles and everything in my head through a movement, I want to get the biggest bang for my workout time buck as I possibly can. So floor crunch, sure, it'll make my abs very, very, very sore, but I'm also not gonna have time after that to balance it out with doing lumbar extension work and glute bridges, and then trying to get massaging and foam rolling into my chest, and then getting the breathing exercise after. Why not just tie everything in all at once? I won't necessarily be as sore specifically in my rectus abdominis, but if I do that exercise 2, maybe 3 times a week, all of a sudden everything starts like a rising tide, getting lifted up all at the same time. And over the long run, I'm going to get much better results much faster, which is kind of where all of my clients tend to agree with me. So that's it for today. I hope this information was very helpful to you guys. As always, have a happy and healthy rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time.